Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, how come that microphone didn't work? Hey, good morning. How you doing, everybody? It is Thursday, September 12th. I hope you're in a September 12th mindset. September 12th, 2024. Time for another show. Numerology going on in my head about 9, 12s, and some 24 in there as well. I don't know what numerology has to do with anything since I'm kind of enumerate as it is. I recognize some multiples in there. I don't know, something. Go to the lottery. And, I don't know. And then if you win, of course, support the show. Okay, that's my sponsorship message for the day. Oh, and by the way, by way of thanks to everybody who continues to support the show or have boosted their support of the show, here's one that I have to call out for you, and I assume we can guess who's behind it, but the screen name of the account boosting their support for the show, Netroots Radio. Hi. Justice, is that you? I guess so, right? Well, thanks for checking on our signal and giving us the daily thumbs up that it's 5 by 5. You didn't need to do that. You're doing more than anybody's share of supporting the show by actually, making it possible for people to stream it live. And, by the way, that means we don't have to depend on wackadoodles, technology owned by weirdo billionaires or anything like that, I think. I don't think that the streaming service that we use is run by technocratic weirdo billionaires, I think. So that's one of our advantages over, everybody else in the world. But thank you very much, and we appreciate your support, and everybody should keep in mind that Netroots Radio, also a volunteer operation that needs those donations to keep up and running and serve you. Why not drop by their webpage and check in? And, they've used one of these technological marvels to include a donate button for their services to be supported too. So please do stop by. Of course, YouTube subscriptions, those two picking up in numbers that I think it might be, I suppose it might be a bit much content-wise to call out every name that is also subscribing to YouTube. But, of course, let's prioritize the donors first. And I did get my first response from yesterday's idea discussed about the premium service that would deliver a quicker but less edited product not to your door, but that's the phrase people use anyway, but deliver a podcast version of the live show with all the errors and nonsense and background noise and this and that, and spending less time refining it perhaps and turning it around faster, but perhaps as a premium service. At least one person chimed in and said, yeah, I would absolutely do that. I didn't tell them it would cost $1 million, but when I do, I'm sure they'll agree. And I guess this also, by the way, this may stem not just from the mind of my college graduate editor who's always thinking about these things, but also my brother Mark, whose name frequently gets called on the show, who sends me lots of article ideas and suggestions. I guess he originated, or it was our editorial thinking about one of the suggestions, which was, hey, how come I can't get this thing faster? And we started thinking, maybe for Mark, maybe we just email him the file right away. But then we thought, actually, there's probably a lot of people who would like to have that. And, maybe we could make it work out. So, lots of people thinking about the evolution of the show, and that is always helpful. It is today, day 2 after the big debate, and as you know, this is the year in which debates change the direction of the election in ways unseen, and like nobody's ever seen before, as a matter of fact, and ever in the history of this country, or maybe even the world, or maybe even, let's say, the local group of galaxies. I don't know. He's been studying his astronomy. And so he threw that in there. Still continuing to find out more about what people think about the shakeout. I don't know. I think we're done in interviewing supposedly independent voters, but the stories keep rolling in about people who got themselves into the various focus groups, only to later be revealed as very well-known area Republican activists, or in some cases weirdo Groyper types as well. So I really don't understand how it is that newspapers, I thought they sort of prided themselves on these things. This is the sort of thing that would be turned up by even a halfway decent jury pool voir dire. And I'm surprised that reporters aren't doing this. But I guess, certainly this is the sort of thing that if I bothered to make this comment on social media, we'd get a flood of "this surprises you" kind of comments. And, well, it really sort of does. I still occasionally hold out hope that people are just looking at basic information, taking a name and Googling it. People won't go out on blind dates without taking those names and Googling them. Why not Google the names of your potential focus group participants? And maybe it comes down to like what Frank Luntz was crying about the other day. I can't find women voters who say they're independent and are coming in undecided. They've all made up their minds. And I guess if you can't get a focus group together, you're just going to take people who are willing to pretend that they are independents, even if they're not, maybe. I don't know. Or else, I don't know. I guess these guys feel like they're really super busy or something and they can't do this sort of research. Anyway, there's some other things happening in the country and some other reaction to the debate that we have to round up. That's Greg Dworkin's role. Or at least, I'm going to say that's his role. It may be that the Rafto Stories is about something else. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm fine.
Well, good.
I'm from New England. Lobster is my role.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, when one of the other features of having an in-house editor helps me get ready for your news roundup today based on something we did during the break. I don't know whether I hinted strongly enough that this was coming, but I have this on my soundboard in case this comes up. Is
and Dan
right?
Balls.
So anytime.
And Dan Balls.
You remember our discussion yesterday? Yeah, so
that's the name of the show.
Basically,
Dan Balls in the morning.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, I mean that's right up there
that's
with
bullshit.
They're gonna need that from time to time. Plus, of course, your famous line on vaccination, everyone's favorite. So, in case you go to, you let me know if any Dan Balls stories are coming up. And
well, get it ready because there's going to be stuff you say that you're going to have to, screen yourself.
Oh my gosh! Well, I got the regular horn.
I mean, for example, the endorsement stories today. We have to start with that.
Yes, I mean some of them
and your
are
favorite person in the whole world.
Oh yeah.
Alberto Gonzales, Attorney General for George W. The W stands for useless. Bush.
Useless.
Now we have Dick Cheney, who's endorsed Harris.
Yeah.
And we have Alberto Gonzales, W's Attorney General.
Yeah. I have to tell Armando.
Harris.
Armando just heard that, and he almost crashes.
He doesn't want to have any part of it. He doesn't care about America or democracy. Useless POS.
I am painting by numbers. Leave me alone.
Right. Former Attorney General in Politico, former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales will support Kamala Harris. He views Trump's reelection as a threat to the rule of law. And as I said at Twitter, look, hold your nose, stop laughing. Yeah. This is not for us. This
right.
Is Republicans.
I can
it's
ignore
part
it.
Of the permission structure. Let it go. He's an awful person.
Yeah.
I don't
it's
care.
Not going to change my
vote.
Are you kidding? I mean, yeah. Look, I don't need anybody's permission to go vote for Kamala Harris.
You're not a Republican.
Yeah.
You're not an undecided voter.
Oh, that's not what I mean. What I meant is, it doesn't bother me
the undecided voters who are all Republican operatives.
No, I wasn't meant to address the actual, you mentioned permission structure. For them, it's valid. What I mean is, I guess permission is the wrong word. There's nothing that interests me about what Alberto Gonzales is doing with his vote. I'm glad to note that, but for me, I told you who I was going to vote for, and that's still true. Are weird people that I don't like also going to vote for her? Yeah, well, yeah. Okay.
And it's for that reason I'm going to read to you what Alberto Gonzales said. It's very long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But I will tell you this. Yes. He said, casting a vote for Harris, and remember, you have to look at this through the eyes of a Republican, which is to say those undecided voters in the focus groups. Casting a vote for Harris will require the American people to place their faith in her character and judgment. Now, some may see her as too progressive and worry she would be too easily manipulated. There's little mystery or doubt, however, about how Trump will act and govern based on past behavior and comments. He will help those who help him, his family, for personal or financial reasons. He will pull back from our leadership role among other democracies. Based on spending levels during Trump's first term, his policies will increase the national debt. Harris, meanwhile, has sworn fidelity to the rule of law as a former local prosecutor and state attorney general. Remember, this is attorney general.
He just likes attorney general. Yeah, okay.
Her record in law enforcement shows a clear commitment to pursuing justice. While I may disagree with some of her policies, I'm hopeful she will be open to dissenting views and will always act in a manner respectful of the power of all three branches of government. And then he goes on to excoriate Congress and the Supreme Court for not standing up to Trump. And then he endorses Harris. I will take that.
Yeah, I mean, okay. He's not a guy I ordinarily care to hear from. And I guess I'll say this. I also don't care to hear from him now, but I'm glad he's speaking to other people.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Go talk to your fellow Republicans. Another guy you may not love,
nothing
Joe
wrong
Walsh,
with that.
Okay, who is part of Republicans against Trump.
Are you sure? You don't lie?
He is in New Hampshire.
Why?
Campaigning for Harris.
All right.
Telling
that's
people
a good why.
Telling fellow Republicans, because that's who he's meeting with.
Yeah.
That it's okay to vote for him. It's okay. You can do it. It's okay.
All right. Has he got a little megaphone with him?
Because Dick Cheney's doing it, and Alberto Gonzales is doing it, and there's nothing more important than the rule of law and the Constitution, so it's okay for you to do it too.
Okay.
You don't have to love her policies. Just vote for her. I mean, fine. I will take it. And then, of course, that was good for Republicans and probably for the election.
By the way, I will also accept that if you vote for her by accident, that is also okay with me.
Yeah. I mean, if states want to...
I can't believe it.
I mean, North Carolina's ballots just got thrown out. If you want to do butterfly ballots instead, that's fine. Well, because they didn't... they were printed without Robert F. Kennedy. Well, and the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled, no, he has to be on the ballot, even though it's going to cost the county millions of dollars.
That's funny.
Go reprint them. We're not voting early. We're not.
That is very interesting, given how frequently the panic about printing them in time is given as the excuse for doing something extraordinarily dumb or unhelpful with the ballots.
Well, you have to remember that
print them again.
State Supreme Courts are incredibly partisan. They make the U.S. Supreme Court look like judges.
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, the robes
fair-minded
really
and all of that.
Like judges.
You should look at the state Supreme Courts.
Yeah. Huh. Well, okay. I mean, that's a new one, and that'll be used later.
Yes.
Because we just read Michigan is having the same problem.
But then again, that's again for the Republicans. For me, the big endorsement today was, well, let's just say I have seen and enjoyed a dozen little clips of the Pirates of Penzance this morning.
Oh, okay.
Because Linda Ronstadt.
Yes. Yes, even, what is that? That's operetta, or is that...
Yeah, it's operetta.
Okay, nice.
Uh-huh. She, take heart, and nails it. Just nails it. It's beautiful.
Well,
but not
she's
as
a professional singer.
Endorsement. She says, Donald Trump is holding a rally on Thursday in a rented hall in my hometown, Tucson.
Yes.
I prefer to ignore it, but since the building has my name on it, say something.
Yeah. All right. Then,
the former president.
Very wise.
Go to Tucson, a town with deep Mexican-American roots and a joyful, tolerant spirit. I don't just deplore his toxic politics, his hatred of women, immigrants, and people of color, his criminality, dishonesty, and ignorance. Although there's that.
Anything else? Yeah.
For me, it comes down to this. In Nogales and across the southern border, the Trump administration systematically ripped apart migrant families seeking asylum. Family separation made orphans of thousands of little children and babies, brutalized their desperate mothers and fathers. It remains a humanitarian catastrophe. Physicians for Human Rights have said meets the criteria for torture. There is no forgiving or forgetting that. Trump first ran for president, warning about rapists coming in from Mexico. I'm worried about keeping the rapist out of the White House.
Hi-yo.
And that's signed Linda Ronstadt. And then she adds, P.S. I raised 2 adopted children in Tucson as a single mom. They're both grown and living in their own houses, and I live with a cat. So am I half a childless cat lady because I'm unmarried and didn't give birth to my kids? Call me what you want. This cat lady will be voting proudly in November for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Okay.
And that means something for me.
Yeah.
But, hey, you're a Republican, you got Gonzales. If, you're a normal person who respects talent, well, you got Ronstadt.
Yeah. Gonzales was terrible in Pirates of Penzance.
And Beyonce.
Yeah.
And, what is it you need? And I think, I don't have it in front of me, but Charlie Sykes, I think, was the one who wrote it, or it could have been Tim Miller. I don't know. Somebody at the Bulwark. Sykes certainly passed it around. Is, what the heck do you want from Kamala Harris? She's given you everything you said you were asking for, you uncommitted voter who says this. Well, I don't see enough of her policies. Well, go to her website and read her website.
But her policies are just like Biden's.
Come to my door and hand printed to me
on
my forehead.
Yeah.
Fine. What's your real reason for that? Well, I'm a Republican.
Economic anxiety.
I'm city council Republican.
Yeah. I mean, that's turns out increasingly to be the answer. Yeah. What can I tell you? Look, there's no satisfying them. It's a disguise for just this economic anxiety. It was a disguise for various other motivations, but she's doing all the things. She's saying all the stuff.
Yeah, I'm not making that mistake again. Debating. I voted for Obama and then later found out he was black.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm an uninformed voter or anything like that.
But, right. That's true, too. Yeah. When did you you found out just now?
Yeah, just now.
Wow.
I won't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll just assume everybody.
Kamala Harris, she may turn out to be a black man for all I know.
Well, look, people are coming up with their excuses, and I am a little surprised, though, how frequently, I don't know why I'm surprised, but I am, how frequently news organizations just don't even Google who they're interviewing. Although some of these things, I think, the issue is they keep interviewing the same people over and over again because they've formed a focus group and they're tracking their progress, and I understand that, but how you do a one-time focus group of undecided voters, and you're like, I don't understand. This guy is the Grand Dragon of the KKK. Why didn't I notice that? So he came in his robes. I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah,
I just thought it was fancy dress.
I'm into pillowcases.
Yeah, right. He had one of those really super cool looking.
Yeah, super cool one with the points on it.
Yeah.
So, listen, this is Blueprint.
Blueprint
is a Democratic firm that does polling.
All right.
And there's 2 pieces here of them that I want to highlight. The first one is a simple chart, which I think I sent you, finding swing state voters' media consumption on the trail.
Okay.
And this is a really eye-opening what swing state voters have seen, heard, or missed from Donald Trump's fist pump after being shot at to Kamala Harris's CNN interview.
Yeah, okay. Media consumption, a very good predictor of, are you crazy?
Nothing, but this gives you an idea of the world.
No, I think it is.
We, who are politically connected, know all of this stuff.
Yes, we are aware of all internet traditions.
We've at least seen clips. We played clips. We played clips on this show. We played clips that you were surprised because you didn't know it was coming, and I dropped on you at the last minute.
Yeah.
We've done that.
Right. It might happen again.
Yeah, it might, although I don't have any lined up right at the moment. Kamala Harris's convention speech.
Yes.
What percentage of swing state voters, so this is registered voters in swing states, what percentage watched the convention speech? 39%.
Okay.
What percentage heard of it, even though you didn't watch it? 33. Okay? Haven't watched, haven't heard, 28. Donald Trump's, 30. So a third of the voters have no clue.
Yes, let's interview them. Right.
Tim Walz's convention speech, 38, haven't watched or heard of it, and J.D. Vance's 39. How about the much-discussed Kamala Harris and Tim Walz CNN interview?
Right.
29% watched, 37% heard about it, 34. Again, it's 34 all along.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the one thing that nobody watched.
Yeah.
The social media video of Kamala Harris dancing, and the thing that most people saw Donald Trump pumping his fist and saying fight after he was shot at. Very difficult to avoid that one.
Yeah, I mean, a major political figure was
34% are unaware
head.
that Donald Trump's staffers filmed campaign material at Arlington National Cemetery. So a third of the voters have no clue. So when you start to see campaign ads highlight stuff you already know and I'm sick of,
I don't mind.
A third of the voters haven't even heard about it. That is important to emphasize.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel like you've emphasized that before in prior elections. And guess what? 30% of Americans don't know that you emphasized that already.
34% of Americans haven't listened to the show, and 37% don't realize that most pundits make up statistics.
This is just a persistent theme, though. I mean, if you're getting tired of listening to the same thing over and over again, and I am.
Then stop having elections every day.
Yeah, well, you just do it. I don't need to watch the debate because I've heard all their lines. Yeah, but if you haven't heard all their lines, then you need to watch the debate just to see what are they saying. But that's the nature of politics.
By the way, did this debate snap poll and message test. Harris gains with independents and key voter groups, with 45% of voters now more likely to support Harris, including 37% of independents. The vice president's debate performance has cemented her as a formidable candidate. Heading into the final months. On the other hand, 31% of voters say the debate makes them more likely to support Trump. So, big takeaways, 45% of voters who watched the debate.
Yeah.
And that's only a third. A third watched, a third heard about it, and a third have no clue what's a debate. Yeah. So, 45% of voters who watched the debate are now more likely to support Harris. 39% much more likely. Only 31% they're more likely to support Trump. Among independents, 37 Harris, 26 Trump.
Okay.
Most people thought that Harris won. Yes. Positive messaging worked, and Harris is out with a bunch of new ads about that, which is interesting to me.
Well, all right then.
Because, and I've said this before, who was it? Axios.
Okay.
Had this whole piece about new ads that Harris has. I think I have a link to it. And it's right under the Linda Ronstadt endorsement.
Oh, okay. I'll take a look.
And it says, the big picture, the contrast featured in the ad is a theme reverberated through the campaign since Harris entered the race in historic fashion. Trump has painted a darker vision for the country as he seeks to tap into voters' dissatisfaction with the country. The state of play, the TV and digital ad is part of Harris' campaign's $370 million ad buy from Labor Day through Election Day. Presidential ad spending has exploded in the weeks since Harris entered the race, with spending on pace to break total spending during the 2020 cycle per the tracking firm Ad Impact, which I follow on Twitter and tells me really interesting stuff. Like, for example, between medium buying and Ad Impact and others who follow this stuff, just short of 69 million people saw the debate. Maybe a third of swing voters didn't see it, but an awful lot of Americans did. And it's way more than 70 million when you add in streaming. And then if you do clips and social media and influencers and stuff, it's probably the most watched debate in history. So when you see numbers that say, well, it's not as watched as the Hillary-Trump debate, that's because everybody was watching on TV in that ancient period. Mm-hmm. Right? That's not how it's done now.
Yeah, it's actually somewhat less convenient to see if you're on the not many people watched clips on the go the way we do now. You take your phone with you
can't
watch
compare.
It during
and so,
commute time.
It was much less watched. Actually, it was more watched. You just don't understand how that is. And that's important because the piece that I wanted to highlight and all of that is just a setup for is Peter Hamby's piece in Puck called "The Media is Not the Message."
Oh.
Despite the historic nature of this unprecedented topsy-turvy election, a staggering percentage of persuadable voters are not tuning in. Remember that third of swing voters? And they're definitely no longer tuning in on linear TV.
Okay.
That's the new phrase for it.
Linear.
Making it harder than ever for the campaigns to find them. There's something called the Shorenstein Center, I think it's called, where reporters can go and do a year fellowship and work on a specific project. I may have mentioned this to you before. Peter Hamby is one of my favorite reporters because he took off a year, did a fellowship there, and wrote about Twitter and other social media. So he's actually pretty well steeped in this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were saying. I favor the reporters who stop reporting for a year. I don't want to hear from them.
But go back to school and learn a little bit more about their class.
Yeah, continuing
in advanced
professional
work.
education.
Yeah, I like that.
Good, great, wonderful.
But it turns out what he did was social media, and I like social media. So, I was good on that. But what he writes is lost in the hype and hoopla is the fact that fewer Americans are tuning in. Back in July, around 50 million Americans watched Joe Biden sleepwalk to disaster. That's a big number for TV networks in 2024. But the audience was noticeably smaller than the one that watched the first presidential debate between Biden and Trump by more than 20 million viewers. In other words, back in 2020, 70 million viewers watched. And only 50 million people saw the Biden event with Trump, which was enough to kick Biden out of the race. It was significant. However, 20 million people more than the Biden debate watched the Harris debate.
All right.
I suppose we could call it the Harris-Trump debate, but I'm not sure Trump showed up.
Yeah, well, he was providing the orange balance on the color
Which, by the
scheme.
way, a sidebar, another thing. People talk all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, and it's great, and it's wonderful, and it should keep happening, and it's getting better every single day about how Trump lost that debate.
Yeah.
Harris won that debate.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for people to give her credit, but we'll do that after the break.
Okay.
The point for now.
Give her credit now.
Is the much-hyped Harris interview, only a third of swing state voters saw it, and a third of the swing state voters didn't even know it happened.
Yeah. Well, that's that's reality. I mean, people don't check in for that sort of stuff. If it happened and it was important, it'll be in maybe in the newspaper that I'll ignore tomorrow. But in the meantime, come to my diner and find out why I'm not paying attention to things.
Well, more about this important story after the break.
Okay, excellent. We'll use the break to our advantage. Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. Welcome back, everybody, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We were just having another show in the background, and so we now bring it to you live. More discussion. By the way, so in case
my live reaction to what if W actually did endorse Harris?
That was the question, and the answer is I don't care. I mean, it makes we'll enjoy announcing it on the show. I'm not one of those people. I guess I don't even know if there really are people who get upset to find out somebody I hate is voting for the same person as me. I'm not certain that's a real reaction. It's just foreign to me. I'm sure it happens to some people, and it's okay. Just go cast your ballot. But yeah, to me, like finding out that somebody I disagree with vehemently is voting for Harris is, I was right the whole time, and that person just realized that they were wrong, and now they're coming around to my position, and that's great.
See, but the problem for me, of course, is that I'm a miserable, manipulative old man, and I look at W and say, look, if he ever endorsed, just send him to Maine too. Let him go.
Tell people.
The Kennebunkport. I don't know if Kennebunkport's 1 or 2. It might be in 1, but it doesn't matter. It's close enough.
It feels like a 1, but it looks like a 2. I don't know what
1
that means.
is blue.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Kennebunkport is right at the edge of that before you get into the vast parts of Maine, which are forest and no people, and is Maine 2, and is an electoral vote that went for Trump last time. That's Jared Golden country. And send Bush there because he's still popular in Maine, all over Maine.
Yes.
And let him campaign for Harris in Maine and like nowhere else because everybody else hates him.
I mean, there's good uses to be made of these people. They wouldn't be persuasive to me, but they would make me say, hey, I was right.
Alberto Gonzales endorsement and the Dick Cheney endorsement were not for us.
Right. And it's okay.
I'll take Ronstadt and Taylor Swift.
All right.
And here's another fact about that.
Okay.
And this wounds me to the heart.
No.
Right. Peter Hamby writing about the media environment right now, and he says the average MSNBC voter, the average MSNBC viewer, is 70 years old.
Ah.
Does that sound familiar? It should.
Yeah. I mean,
while the average voter
is
39 years old.
Okay.
Jack Benny's age. Who's Jack Benny? Well, I'm 70. I remember.
You know that he's 39.
And that voter, he's been 39 forever, and that voter has been shunning television for a decade, hiding from TV ads in the process.
Yeah.
Cable and satellite television providers have lost more than 20 million U.S. subscribers since 2014, a trend that's further accelerated in the last 2 years. Since the 2022 midterms, 10 million Americans have snipped the cable cord, including me, thanks to last year's Spectrum Disney fight that prevented me from watching college football on ESPN.
Oh.
Those cord-cutting numbers don't include the millions of younger Americans who never had cable and spent their TV time on platforms like Netflix and Hulu or ad-supported streamers like Roku or Tubi. Streaming now reaches more Americans than linear television, according to Nielsen. Roku alone has a user base larger than the 6 biggest pay TV providers combined.
Well.
So that's why, I was saying, 69 million people watched the debate between Harris and Trump. Well, those are only the numbers that you track that don't include streaming. ABC alone had 7 million people who watched on streaming.
Oh, on stream. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right. So it's going to be the most watched debate ever. And then you throw in the social media influencers and their chopped up clips. It's going to be an enormous audience. And it'll take, by the way, a week for that to get disseminated. And that's why you won't really know the effects of this debate until next weekend.
I think that, by the way,
coming weekend,
constitutes
but the weekend
fraud.
after. That's when you will know. Nate Silver pointed that out. One of the few times he's right about this election.
Yeah, it's
These
okay for him to be right
time.
about something now. All right,
and it may only be 1 or 2 points, or it may be 15 points. We don't know, but even 1 or 2 points would make a big difference in a close election. But strategists, Hamby writes that the Harris and Trump campaigns, along with their allied super PACs and 501c4s, are facing a conundrum as the 2024 race enters its final 6 weeks. I'm laughing because you pointed out that networks and media who do focus groups about undecided voters need to screen them better.
Yes.
Okay. So my first screening question, so you say you're an undecided, uncommitted, normal voter?
Yeah.
Do you know the difference between a 501c4 and a 501c3?
No.
Yes, you're out.
You can't possibly.
You can't possibly be a normal person.
Okay.
501c3s can't endorse. 501c4s can. That's basically the difference.
Yeah, I would say
I'm not a normal person. I know this.
Right.
If you know this, you are not a normal person, and you are not going to be in my focus group.
Not even on a jury. I wouldn't let you.
Right. The campaigns are blessed with ungodly sums of money, a historic amount of fundraising dollars they're dumping into advertising in every key battleground state, but they're also unleashing this avalanche of ads at a time when voters are tuned out. They're diffuse, they're harder to contact. Tens of millions of voters are simply unreachable with traditional television advertising. That's why when Trump came up with these, look, we're putting these TV ads. Who cares?
Yeah.
People don't watch TV. I said that on the show, and Hamby's backing me up here.
Yeah.
The 2020s are the streaming decade, and the shift is well underway, said Michael Beach, the CEO of Cross Screen Media, a Republican audience targeting firm that helps campaigns figure out where to spend their dollars. It's never been more challenging for campaigns to get a message in front of their target audience.
Maybe, although, as I recall, 2016 or 2017 anyway, was largely about trying to dissect, hey, what did the Trump campaign claim to do versus actually do with this whole Cambridge Analytica micro-targeting thing. So, I mean, it's been part of the presidential level practice for longer than we think. But now normies have caught up because they understand, oh, I see. I'm not watching as much TV. They do have to find me elsewhere. Even if they're watching their weird streaming content on their television sets, it's taken them a while to figure out that they are not being reached by the same targeting as network advertising.
Right. And interestingly, it's regional.
Yeah.
And, of course, it has a lot to do with age.
Sure.
So Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, which tend to skew older than the rest of the country, still watch cable.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to go on cable and advertise, you do it in the upper Midwest.
So right among the local fireplace and furnace shops.
Yeah, exactly. In the Sun Belt, you better stream. Nobody watches cable down there.
The cables melt outside.
Well, everybody's
in the heat.
transient. They're new to the area. They just moved in. They didn't bother getting cable. I mean, it's just a different regional feel
that
to
is a good
it.
point. Yeah, I could see that. All right, sure. Everyone is snowbound in the upper Midwest. They can't move houses.
Right,
They're
exactly. For instance, according to
thaw.
and they're stuck indoors. They watch TV. For instance, according to cross-screen data, 58% of likely voters in Arizona were left unreached by linear TV ads in August. In Georgia, it was 57%. In Nevada, 55%. In every key state, streaming has now surpassed linear. And persuadable voters, who tend to be slightly younger than the average voter, more in their 40s than their 50s, are more likely to be in the streaming group. 71% of likely voters are either in streaming-only households or use some combo of screaming.
I use screaming.
Screaming video,
streaming
and broadcast to watch shows on live TV. So that's pretty interesting. And so putting ads on TV isn't going to help you in Arizona. I don't know about North Carolina. Also transient to a certain extent. A lot of people moving in. Of course, most big streamers give subscribers the option to pay to not see ads. Most streaming households are ad-free. This creates yet another challenge. So, maybe they see everything through streaming, but then again, they pay an extra $15 to not have to listen to you. So what are you going to do if you're an ad guy?
I don't know. Everybody was doing their best to not listen to ads before anyway, so there was always that issue.
So this isn't first you stratify by age. If you're younger, you're more likely to have streaming. And then you stratify by economics. If you are richer, you're more likely to never see those ads.
Yeah.
So Harris, trying to reach used car dealers in Arizona, is stuck because they don't watch cable and they've filtered out the ads on their streaming TV. So what do they watch?
Yeah, I don't know.
So maybe with 2 months until Election Day, the Harris campaign is lucky to be sitting on a Scrooge McDuck-piled dough. Hard choices can wait, so you spend it everywhere. But, smart campaigns in the future are really going to have to make some tough choices about where they spend their money.
Okay. Well, look out for that because, sort of a self-selecting group. Sometimes, the smart people avoid these
There was a wonderful
altogether.
movie recently out, Everywhere All at Once, Everywhere Everything All at Once, I think
Yes.
was the title. It was great. But the strategy here, that's the strategy of the Harris campaign. They have enough money, thanks to you folks who are listening to the show, so that they can be everywhere all at once.
Yeah, that's true. But remember, we also need to be down ballot all at once too. And just another gentle reminder that lots of very smart people have done the calculus and have figured out what they're in their view, and you can choose the views. There's at least 3 or 4 people that I know of targeting the down ballot races and saying, listen, I can tell you where to target your money if you don't have the time to figure it out. Here are my notes. So still time to do that, but time is running out, and it's certainly better to inject last minute cash in the down ballot direction So they're covered up at the top, and they're beginning to disseminate it, slowly down.
Right.
It's not that they're not doing it; it's just that that's a slow-moving vehicle.
Meanwhile,
yes,
we got this campaign going on.
Right. Which
and
one
my
is
friend
that?
Jill Lawrence, who's usually pretty tied into things, has a confessional column here, which I thought was interesting. And again, this relates to normies.
Okay.
And this relates to what's going on here. The remarkable, unexpected competency of the Harris campaign.
Oh, all
she
right.
outdebated Trump. She outran her caricature. And basically the column is like, why didn't we know she was this good? And the answer
that
is,
does
first of all,
normie
because she
sounding,
was vice
isn't it?
president. And secondly, you're an East Coaster and you're not from California.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the answer. Because, that was a question mark around here among, let's say, others in the household. Me, I'm too connected. I'm too connected to fall for that kind of nonsense. But, yeah, there was questions like, she hasn't done anything wrong as far as I know, but where's she been for 4 years? Like, doing the job of being quiet and in the background, which is what vice presidents do. Right. Yeah, but couldn't she have? I watch and see if she does. Oh,
and
she
I'm trying to
is.
remember who
Look
made
at
this
that.
point. But one of the things, because Harris's performance, again, it's not that Trump lost, just that.
He did.
Which he did. He had one of the outstandingly bad debate performances in history.
I just want to say I really suck at this. All right,
yes.
Go ahead.
But it's that Harris won.
Yes.
So the Trump lost part of it is interesting in the context of presidential debates.
He would have lost to a less competent figure.
He would have.
That's just not what happened.
But my point is, whether you're looking at Obama's first debate or whether you're looking at George W. Bush's debate when he was president, if you don't prepare for this and think you're going to wing it and do it on your knowledge of how things work or whatever it is you think, if you do not prepare for debates, debates are not natural. Athletic talent will carry you wherever you need to go. This is something you have to practice.
I agree. I don't believe I've ever heard of another candidate who said, I'm just going to wing it. And
but they
what
did.
happened.
There were people who did less prep than they should have and didn't practice enough.
But they didn't say they were.
Trump didn't do any of it.
Yeah, he went
Harris
further
did
than anybody.
all of it. She was totally prepared.
And prepared for possibly being accused of being overprepared.
Exactly, because that happened with Hillary, who also cleaned Trump's clock because she was prepared.
Yes.
But when you're a woman, your laugh spoiled the whole thing. She was brilliant and covered every point, but she cackled, so therefore Trump wins the. And besides, he's taller,
right?
And therefore he won.
There's your Nate Silver commentary. In case anybody thought, oh, Nate's making sense again. It's only been a couple of days since he was saying he sure is taller. That must mean he wins.
Right. No, what Nate actually said was even stupider than that.
Oh, I hadn't accounted for that possibility.
He said, if you turn the sound off,
well,
as people tell you should, and I don't know why, then you could see that Trump was taller, therefore he won the debate. That's basically what he said.
Right. Now I know how he lost so much money at basketball. What he does not understand is that
people tell you to turn the sound off because it gives you an idea of the body language. And if you do that and you see the split screen with Trump glowering and Harris smiling and laughing and putting her hand under her chin, bemusedly watching him during the time she wasn't giving you the auntie side eye.
Right.
That's what tells you that Harris cleaned his clock in the debate. That's why you turn the sound off. But, of course, you should listen to it with the sound on because it's even better. But that's what you get out of it.
That's what you're supposed to be looking
What Nate Silver
for.
got out of it is that Trump is taller.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he's attuned to watching basketball games that he loses bets on. So there it makes sense. Oh, who's taller? Well, in basketball, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. In one jam-packed exchange, said Jill Lawrence, Harris told him to his face he'd been fired by 81 million people. I still think that's the line of the debate.
Yeah, that's a good contender.
The turning point of the debate was when she got him baited hook, line, and sinker about his crowd size and that world leaders are laughing at him.
Yes.
But the line of the debate is you've been fired by 81 million people. I dismiss you.
Yes,
you're fired.
That's her line of the debate. And
you can't see that. You can't hear it if you turn the sound off.
It's hard to hear any of the lines of the debate.
Right.
with the sound off. You missed that. Although you could write them down on cards and but you're not allowed props.
Right.
But
both sides are playing with the idea that there'll be a second debate. There will be no second debate.
no. All right. Trump is already.
Trump says he doesn't want it because he's
Right.
scared. Harris says she wants it because she knows he's scared, but she doesn't really want it. She doesn't need it. You can't top what happened there.
No, it's not. And it was a fascinating thing to watch. I mean, I think the debate. Underneath it all, I think she was. I mean, she knows the gravity of the moment. I think she was a little nervous about the whole thing. She handled it beautifully and did it right. But
Well, the fate of the free world is on your shoulders.
like, of course.
Why should you be nervous?
Right, exactly. To me, I was saying, though, it's kind of a revealing moment for me, like a very humanizing thing. Like, this is somebody who really can and will be asked to lead the free world, and there's just
Right.
this one moment where, oh my gosh, I would feel terribly nervous too. And
Well,
she
stage fright or butterflies before you go on and perform. This is a person who appreciated the fact that this is not a frickin' game.
Yeah.
And then she gets up there and she hits a grand slam home run.
Yeah, I mean,
the game.
does it surprise you to find out that people who are top performers constantly say, yeah, then that never goes away, and if it did, I'd be worried.
Yes.
That keeps me on my toes. And it's
that's
just
exactly
little signs.
why Trump, Obama
Yeah.
in his first debate, that feeling of being worried about it went away, and I didn't prepare, and then you get your head handed to you. That's what happens.
Oh, no. Yeah.
The reason that you prepare is you do worry about it. And if
Right.
you're not capable of worrying
Get
about
ready.
it, you are not going to practice the way you're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Simone Biles is a natural, gifted, incredible.
Yeah.
Guess what, folks? She practices.
Yes. Right. That's how you spend your life, so that all you can do
Caitlin
if you're normal is
She
minimize the impact of the nerves. If you make the nerves go away, you've lost contact with reality, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay.
So, just wanted to make those points. So, fine. What really happened in the debate? In a nutshell, remember, we do pundit roundups, abbreviated. And the abbreviated debate, you can watch it, you can get the clips.
Debate
you can, certify that what I'm saying is true. But Harris showed herself capable of being president, and Trump shows that he's not deserving of it. I mean, that's what happened.
No kidding. Holy moly. Yep. All right. Well, that would have saved us an hour.
Several shows, but, so I didn't say it till now.
Okay. Well, good summary, though. And
Right.
we could make the clip, and it'll go viral of you saying that.
Now, last topic before I'm done here is two pieces, one by the Washington Post, one by Ann Applebaum in the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
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 And they are about eating dogs. The anatomy of a racist smear, how false claims of pet eating immigrants caught on. And the experts who study this have said this, the articles enforce this. The allegation, says the Post, based on scattered social media posts drawing on photos and stories far from Springfield, Ohio, unspooled over several days into a twisted and demagogue message that Trump amplified on the debate stage for tens of millions of viewers, got Eric Erickson screaming into Twitter, "You idiots, look what you did. You made him say that. Now everybody knows he's a fool. What the hell are you doing? Shut up."
Yeah.
Of course they won't. The
No.
moment highlighted
no.
how the real issues facing American towns can turn almost instantly into politically fruitful and potentially dangerous campaign fodder, particularly when they involve race or migrants. 3 years after the rumor became national, 3 days after, it seems like 3 years.
Yeah.
3 days after the rumor became national news, no credible accounts of pets being abducted or eaten in Springfield have been documented, which is a fancy way of saying they were lying through their teeth. They're racist. They made it up. But it's only the latest example of the Trump campaign stoking racial divides. And the point is, and they talk about how it got from stupid social media users to conflating things that didn't happen, and all that sort of stuff. But the anatomy is great, the TikTok is great, but it misses the bigger point that Ann Applebaum brings up, which is basically this is all part or parcel, and Charlie Sykes said this morning on Morning Joe as well. This is all part and parcel of the big lie.
Okay. Yeah.
The whole point is that the Russians and those who are pushing this and paying for this, okay, they're interested in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions. And it doesn't matter what the story is. It's got nothing to do with Ukraine, but it's about Ukraine because they want to weaken America, and that's why these stories are getting pushed. And Russia's paying these people to do that, and we know that because they're now under indictment for exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So the pundits in the audience aren't being manipulated by Russian, Chinese, and other autocrats. The relationship goes the other way. Russian, Chinese, and influence operations are designed to spread the views of Americans who actively and enthusiastically support autocratic narrative.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
You may have laughed at Trump's rant on Tuesday night. The people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets, and that's what's happening in our country. It's a shame. But that language is meant to reach an audience already primed to believe that Kamala Harris is destroying the country. And if she becomes president, the country doesn't have a chance of success, he said. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids, whatever that means.
Okay.
Right? But that's
sure.
the group he's trying to reach. He's certainly not trying to expand his base of people who are going to vote for him. This is clearly addition by subtraction, and it's not going to work. And he's going to lose the election, and this is going to be part of why. But this is done with a purpose, and that's why Trumpism isn't going to go away just because Trump disappears.
Right. Although I would like to test that theory.
Yes.
I mean, I'm ready.
So the influencers and audiences are cynical, even nihilistic. They have deep distrust in American institutions, especially those connected to elections. The U.S. has a very large population of people who look for, absorb, and believe anti-American messages, and that's why they watch Fox News.
Yeah. America's a hellhole. That's been the platform forever.
Right. And that's what Harris is highlighting in those ads that nobody's going to see because they don't watch TV anymore.
Okay.
Which is a good idea.
People do circulate. I mean, like clips of the debate, they do see TV ads on their disconnected streaming screens sometimes. They try to avoid ads, but every once in a while somebody says, look at this one. It's great. It's terrible. Whatever it is. You know, smell this, right? Bad milk. And people will sniff a carton of rotten milk even if you show them, look at this terrible ad. But I do everything I can to avoid terrible ads. All right. But you said look at it, so here I go. It does happen.
Right. So anyway, this is all part and parcel of what Trump is trying to do with his own autocratic message. But it's all part and parcel of the big lie.
Yes, right.
Remember,
that's right.
They can never lose. They've never been defeated. If for some reason the numbers don't work out in their favor, like counting votes, for example, it's because, you fill in the blank. Cheating, immigrants, we were robbed, it was rigged. We couldn't have won the debate because it was 3 against 1. Two moderators and Harris. And of course we won anyway because I got a poll online by my friends who I pay to do that says I won 92-8.
Yeah.
And look at those uncommitted voters who were all Republicans who thought that I won. Right. And, you name it. So it's all part of the big lie, and they're just trying to reinforce the idea that don't believe your lying eyes. I won because I say so. The media's not biting this time.
Okay,
and
good.
The message
That's
that
helpful.
Trump really did badly in the debate is pervasive. And that's where TikTok comes in. That's where Taylor Swift fans come in, and so it's not going to work. And this isn't paid ads that say Trump lost. It's people talking to each other saying, oh, my God, did you see that clip? If you didn't, I'll send it to you. Just look at this one line here. Look at him talking about dogs and cats and whatever. And it's not Bill Murray, dogs and cats
living together.
No, that's
no, they're
not.
not. They're dying. They're being eaten. There were any number of lines that in context, out of context, doesn't really matter. The people will play and say, I can't believe that a major party candidate for president this late in the game said these things. I can't believe that a major party
nominated a candidate who was a raving lunatic. That is what's going to
3 times in a row.
Yeah. Well, they'll skip that part. And even the ones who didn't see the debate and didn't know about it are going to hear about it. And that's why ultimately I think is going to wind up losing. I can't predict the margin right now. Too early for that.
100 million. It feels like.
But how many electoral votes?
$100 million.
But, we'll talk next week about what the polls show. But in the meantime, that's what's going on here. And I just think it's fascinating. So how do you reach people who don't want to be reached? If they don't want to learn, they don't want to know about what Harris's, policies actually are, then they're not going to. And they'll turn to you and say, well, the reason I'm not voting for her is I don't know about her policies.
Yeah,
which is the old joke, the 1950s joke about a guy walking around with pencils in his ears. And you go over to him and say, listen, you have pencils in your ears. And he turns to you and says, I can't hear you. I have pencils in my ears.
Yeah. I think I've heard it as bananas. Very
typically. Yeah, well, same idea.
Yeah, well, both yellow as well, very often.
I mean, I read that in an Archie comic when I was about 8 years old, with Jughead Jones walking around with pencils in his ears. But, hey, that's what's going on.
Sharp and dangerous.
Well, he put the eraser in.
Oh, okay. Well, no wonder. Oh, that does make a little bit more sense. Like that seems uncomfortable and silly, and it doesn't even really block all the noise. But I was imagining putting the wrong end of the pencil in.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
Come on.
If you're an 8-year-old boy, the Sharpie part goes in your nose. Doesn't go in your ears. The eraser part goes in your ears.
That would be crazy. All right. Well, that explains a lot of that. The banana doesn't fit.
Why am I saying that? Because 8-year-old boys are like really weird.
I guess. Goodness.
Look at J.D. Vance.
Yeah. And he's even a little older than that.
Not
just
much.
Slightly. Yeah.
Not emotionally.
Oh, gosh, no. Well, that hasn't worked. Well, all right. So, also, by the way, it does remind me that Philip Bump did a little analysis of, Trump, when he was, for what it's worth, what he did say at the debate was largely coded rhetoric that essentially guarantees that he won't be able to reach anybody but the already converted faithful at the debate, which he doesn't even really address the strategic failure of that. It's just, this is what it made him sound like he was speaking gobbledygook. And just in case you want to try to figure out what he thought he was saying, this is how you decode it. But I mean, it is also a way of guaranteeing that it will only be addition by subtraction. You cannot reach people who don't already sign on to your message with the kind of messaging he was delivering, because it's not English. No one understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird. We can get to that in the second part of today's program.
Well, I can't, but you can.
Right. When I say we,
with another hour of
I say me.
In the morning.
I mean me. Right. Exactly.
Right. Sit home, folks. Leave this to the professionals.
Right. And quite honestly, there are days when I wish I wasn't trying to sit home either, but I am. But I don't know. People seem to enjoy it, and they certainly enjoy having you stop by. Yeah. Right. Why would you? You have clean your place up and don't let me dirty it. Let me wreck my own house. Thanks, Greg, and we will check in again on Monday. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We got one more Greg Dworkin suggested piece. He sent me this. He told me right after the break, when you couldn't hear it. Let me tell you something about what went on where you couldn't hear it, but it was secret for me. I heard it at Mar-a-Lago at dinner, but sent me a photo of a clip from a newspaper, an unnamed newspaper. It might be, maybe it's very famous and you even know what newspaper it is. Just sort of by way of, he offers this up, has nothing to do with politics per se, but I guess it carries a political message. But the message it's meant to carry here is, people have misunderstood things forever, and bad media criticism has been around forever. This a clip from the February 11th, 1964 edition of the Times. I don't know where it is. Paul Jones is the author of this opinion piece, and the opinion is, well, it's a review of, I guess, the previous nights or recent nights Ed Sullivan show, to take you all the way back to 1964, with the title Sullivan Wasted Time with Beatles. Of course, a very famous appearance on the then very popular, enormously popular, extraordinarily and disproportionately popular Ed Sullivan show, and the Beatles just sort of emerging as a phenomenon in the United States, get a famous slot on the show. And Paul Jones, at the time, according to my interpretation of the photo of him included here, in the As I See It column. And I don't know whether he was a regular columnist who had a column called As I See It, or it's the As I See It is the title of where we run submitted op-eds. As you, the random person, see it. I don't know. I'm not certain. I'll tell you this. I know who the Beatles are. I know who Ed Sullivan is. I don't know who Paul Jones is. Okay? And yet, he has the chutzpah to put things this way. If Ed Sullivan can find no better use for the time allotted him on Sunday night than to devote it to such exhibitions as he presented last Sunday night, I suggest that CBS TV find something else to put on in this hour of prime time. Why Sullivan found it necessary to aid in the phony promotion of 4 rock and roll exponents, all of whom resemble Moe of the Three Stooges, is beyond comprehension. Not beyond me, not beyond my comprehension, beyond comprehension writ large, I guess. And why he felt it necessary to, quote, load the theater with screaming teenage girls when he normally restricts his audience to grown-ups is also a mystery. It was obvious to those who saw the Beatles, 4 young fellows from Great Britain that have not attained their present notoriety on the basis of their musical talents, for the sounds emanating from their mouths were anything but melodic. I mean, can you imagine? Certainly, that's just old people talking at the time. But it's really about, totally missing the point, I guess. And, of course, not being afraid to totally miss it in front of everybody. I don't know. So I think, as he was saying, just bad media criticism has existed forever, and indeed it has. Okay, time now for me to tell you my bad media criticism of so many other things that have been going on. I mentioned to Greg, I think, but didn't read today. It's another day, and so now we have to talk about what Philip Bump had to say. And again, Philip Bump talking about what we're already talking about, so in many ways confirming priors, but it's important on this show. My excuse for confirming priors is that I have not often organized my thoughts about my prior beliefs, but I find other people who have done so, and so it's helpful in explaining things. So I offer it not in the sense necessarily of confirming priors, but rather of saying I have done a poor job of expressing my prior beliefs, whereas Philip Bump or Amanda Marcotte or somebody else, possibly
and Dan Balls,
right, is another person who could have occasionally confirmed my priors. But anyway, this time it is his piece. This again, Philip Bump's piece. Donald Trump no longer knows how to talk to anyone outside his base. If you did see the debate, you would have probably had some questions, even if you're a political junkie and you knew what was going on and knew why he was saying certain dumb-sounding non sequiturs. This helps explain, I guess, one, why he's doing it and what the repercussions of doing it are. Besides, the upshot is still, he looks like he's a raving lunatic, and I can't vote for somebody like that. During his debate with Vice President Kamala Harris, Trump's inability to break out of his familiar rhetoric was striking, and then also, it might not matter. It might not matter in the sense that he was never going to win anybody over in his debate, even if he looked normal, but okay. And anyway, this is his organized thoughts about this. Donald Trump's success in the 2016 Republican nominating contest, the primaries, was largely a function of his willingness to embrace and elevate dangerous, hateful, and false claims from the rightmost fringe of Republican rhetoric. There was a whole galaxy of assertions and arguments on blogs and social media that even Fox News kept at arm's length. But there were a lot of disaffected people on the right who believed them and were frustrated that the Republican officials, or that Republican officials, didn't parrot them. And that's really one of the most important dynamics here, is what turned on what became the MAGA base, like the stealth MAGA base. The whole, this was really part of the campaign strategy formulated by Steve Bannon. To the extent that he really did anything innovative, interesting, and, if you want to call it evil genius, go ahead. But the idea of activating people who are disaffected, and so disaffected that they sometimes don't even vote, and so therefore exist outside of the scope of vision of pollsters. So you want to pull a victory out of a defeat and surprise the pollsters with it. You get the people who aren't going to show up in the likely voter screen, and you find ways of saying, these people are angry and bitter, so let's give them angry, bitter content that will excite them. And indeed, it appears to be the case that it does excite them. And, so after that, after Trump started to do it, they basically said, well, why aren't more politicians doing this? Why don't you speak like Trump? It's an interesting phenomenon just by itself, right? That this facilitates his total takeover of the party. That's why his daughter-in-law is now the co-chair of the actual National Party organization, and how everybody has signed on with him, because if they don't, they are excommunicated as Republicans. Now, as it happens, they then go and say, fine, then I endorse Kamala Harris. But their careers are either over at that point or were already over when they did that. If you're active inside the party, it's a rarity for you to oppose Trump. And everybody else has signed on, including J.D. Vance, who's done a complete 180 in his stance on Donald Trump, because he has figured out that the base of the party now wants everybody to speak like Trump. I also think it's interesting because there was a time when it was the overt goal of Newt Gingrich to get other politicians, every Republican, to speak like Newt Gingrich. And I wonder if it galls him at all. But I mean, as much as I disagreed with him, at least his speech was intelligible and sounded like it was possibly based in reality. It was very often pulling the same stunt, laundering garbage statistics or made up stuff or even embellished stories or completely fabricated stories into news reports so that you could point to it. I mean, that was very much his strategy, to take something that, may or may not have been complete garbage or a distortion of something that had happened somewhere, elevate it to the point, give your spin to it, talk to the local newspapers about it, get them to write it up with your spin, then take the local newspaper clip and, take it to the next level. Regional papers, national papers. Why aren't you covering this? And generate the stories that way. And in his day, it was, babies found abandoned in a dumpster somewhere, which, unfortunately that happens in the world. But in his telling, it's a widespread phenomenon or indicative of something, very important nationally, when in fact it's an isolated incident. But it's an imaginable thing. It had happened, or, was easy to imagine. I guess to pump up the adrenaline level, you got to talk about eating cats and dogs. And that just on its face is a lot less believable for some reason. But it's essentially the same game. And he was someone, Newt, who used his organization, his network of nonprofits, his PACs, etc. But he was overtly promoting the idea that everyone should talk like Newt. He pretended that people were asking him, stopping on the streets, how can I learn to talk like you? It's just an interesting background. Now that everybody demands that their politicians talk like Trump. That was what they wanted, and it worked out for them. And so, there you go. A lot of disaffected people on the right who believed all of these stupid things that got said and were frustrated that Republican officials didn't parrot them. Well, Trump did. Trump would parrot them. He would speak. There used to be that arm's length distance, right? I love hearing Rush Limbaugh scream about stuff. He says the stuff I wish more people would say it. It's what everybody wants to say if they weren't worried about being ostracized from normal society. This is how they used to express themselves, because they would say, well, if you weren't worried about being politically correct, i.e. Normal and acceptable in society, But they demonized political correctness so that they could wiggle out from underneath that. And how come they won't do it? And Trump did speak like that. It used to be that politicians said, well, you'll recognize my role is to present myself as a normal-ish, responsible person with conservative views. I can't just go and say the same things he does. I don't have license to do that. Trump said, license, I don't care. And it worked out for him, and it excited people. He was the only one. You know, other politicians, they're like, I kind of would like to win. And Trump didn't really particularly care, I don't think, about winning in 2016. And he certainly, you know, had his path to grifting himself some financial security. So it didn't matter so much to him. So he just took those chances. So there you go. Trump did say the things that they wanted people, Republican officials, to parrot. This was, he continues, the genesis of his straight talker reputation. And it allowed him to build a big, loyal base of support that powered him to the nomination. And again, we got to stop and parse. He's not a straight talker because he's telling it like it is. He's a straight talker because he's telling it like I want it to be told to me. And everybody else is afraid to do it because they're not already billionaires, I guess. Once he won and he and his supporters made clear that fealty was a requirement, the rest of the party slowly fell in line. By now, there is no meaningful space to Trump's right, and there is no meaningful political conversation on the right that isn't defined by Trump. There are Republicans and conservatives who oppose Trump and criticize his politics, but they have no power. The power sits with and flows from Trump, and that means he is no longer the outsider, the guy saying things that lack a voice. He is instead the guy who is primarily responsible for divining or validating what's said. He's the king of MAGA land. And while there are other prominent members of this peerage, Elon Musk now, I guess, Fox News, Tucker Carlson, etc., it is Trump's voice that remains supreme because it is to him that the base is most loyal. It also means that he no longer knows how to talk to anyone outside of that world, as was obvious during his debate with Vice President Kamala Harris on Tuesday night. Trump talks a lot, giving lengthy speeches at rallies and lots of interviews to sycophantic interviewers, Musk himself, Fox News, etc., same as the hierarchy previously mentioned. He has a habit over time of distilling points to little sound bites, familiar phrases and references that his base understands without having to say more. They've created a shared vernacular over the course of the past 9 years, and Trump is used to making vague references and getting a knowing response. You know, but by the way, he's also doing that with, you know, hints of criminality. Taylor Swift, for her endorsement, is going to pay a very big price. She's going to pay a big price. Oh, yeah, everybody. What? I was just saying she's going to pay a price, not that I was going to encourage people to target her for violence. Anyway, on the debate stage, though, these vague references landed very differently. Right? Usually at the rallies, people understand what the shorthand is, even if they're bored and want to leave. His clumsy, incomplete reference to the false claim that immigrants in Ohio were eating people's pets was incomprehensible to people not tuned into the political conversation, and particularly to the pro-Trump conversational universe. Even some of those sympathetic to Trump understood that this was a miss. But he couldn't help it. Trump is so used to having audiences who agree with him, diners at Mar-a-Lago, podcasters who are friends with his son, that he is was visibly flustered by the response that he got on stage. In the Skinner box that is campaigning, applause and recognition are the rewards Trump seeks. In that room, no matter which of his most popular riffs he threw out, he wasn't getting what he wanted. Now, obviously, because there was no audience there, but that was one of the reasons that there was no audience there. Stand on your words, not on the feedback. So, Viktor Orban? No, didn't work. No? How about Ashley Babbitt? That name usually triggers a big response. How about peacefully and patriotically? Like, that's a catchphrase for him. The Trump supporters understand that this phrase is meant to absolve him of culpability for the Capitol riot. Did viewers at home know what he meant? I mean, in effect, it was essentially like saying, well, with all due respect, no offense, we're sacking the Capitol. Well, you can't sack the Capitol. That's sacrilege. That's treason. I said, with all due respect. So, do you not understand what that means? What? And here, right, I've said all of these things. I have no culpability for January 6th because I said peacefully and patriotically that those are just words that don't mean anything by way of excuse. I mean, the Capitol was attacked. Yes, but I said the words peacefully and patriotically. So what? It does not matter. It was more frustrating still because Harris kept pushing his buttons. Trump's triggers are as big and as obvious as his ties. That's funny. And Harris kept priming them. Trump, again, not used to this, kept taking big bites of the bait. That was extremely obvious, I think. Even if he wanted to say something that his campaign advisors had suggested, you know how he is, right? First, he had to defend his crowd size or his tenure at the Wharton School of Business or whatever other insecurity Harris drew into the spotlight. You have 2 minutes to actually respond on substance. But first, I got to tell you, my hands are very, very normal. And then spends his 2 minutes on it and then demanding more time. By the way, and getting it from the moderators, who bought no goodwill with MAGA land by not telling him your time is up. Oh, well, we were very fair to him. We just kept letting him go and go. No, you were, in fact, very unfair. All right. MAGA now believes they were unfair. So, by the way, never do that again. And there were the moderators, a focus of particular ire, as I said, among Trump supporters, who, of course, have learned that there's no reward earned from criticizing Trump. ABC News' David Muir and Lindsay Davis challenged the candidate both, and gave them the chance to engage with one another, but they also refused to allow Trump to make significant false claims without noting that they were false. No, immigrants aren't eating pets. No, crime isn't up. No, the 2020 election wasn't stolen. No, it's not legal in blue states or anywhere else to kill a newborn. There's obvious value in having the moderators clarify factual points instead of leaving it to one of the candidates, as though these things are a matter of debate. Nor did they correct all of Trump's myriad lies, like that he, quote, had nothing to do with, unquote, the rally outside the White House on January 6th. But Trump and his allies are used to a universe in which they say false things, and then they all agree with each other that those things are true, or at least true enough. Trump also wasn't corrected when he claimed that he probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they, Biden and Harris, say about me. In his world, this is true enough. They wanted Trump dead, and the assassination attempt was the result. In the real world, there's no evidence that the shooting was anything other than an unstable young man seeking attention. A John Hinckley attack, not a John Wilkes Booth one. But no one ever presses Trump on this stuff, so he just threw out this conspiracy theory that would have been a winner at a rally. By any objective measure, Harris fared better. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I'm programmed. I'm a media figure. I'm programmed to say, by any objective measure, Harris failed. No, she fared, F-A-R-E-D, fared better in the debate, of course, than Trump did. This doesn't mean that the state of the race has changed much. And don't forget that. And most people are telling you that. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Keep campaigning like you're 20 points down. And that's always good advice. Trump may be incapable of appealing to those outside of his base, but his base is big and engaged and has been enough for him to secure just under 50% of the vote in the past two presidential elections. He's done it twice in a row. No reason to believe he can't do it again. One reason he sticks to the same pattern is that it works in keeping his base loyal. But Harris's victory did offer one more opportunity to demonstrate how distant from reality Trump's claims sit. He took the unusual step of visiting the spin room after the debate. Greg noted that yesterday, right? Where he insisted to reporters that polling had shown that he won the debate easily. He shared some of these, quote, polls on his account on Truth Social. There were almost uniformly online surveys conducted by Trump-sympathetic social media accounts, the functional equivalent of taking a straw poll of people's favorite baseball teams at Fenway Park. It is in this world that Trump lives. It is to this world that Trump is used to speaking. It is this world's belief system that Trump reflects. It's his worldview, and either you agree or Trump doesn't really have anything to say to you. As Kamala Harris put it, right, Donald Trump has no plan for you, Harris said more than once, speaking to undecided voters. This was an easier argument to make when any plan Trump had to offer was presented in the foreign language spoken only, I would say, by residents of Trump world. So, good point. Well made there. Let me also offer you this tidbit here. I think boiled down nicely in the Substack offering from Mike Caulfield. It's easily found at mikecaulfield.substack.com. But what I think is of interest here is he's boiled down a reasoning that we sometimes skip over that I think people think is inherently either obvious or inherently understood. But when you stop and think about it, we haven't done a great job really nailing it down. That is, why is it important to fact check debate? Why is it important to call out the falsehoods and to stop the spread of misinformation? I mean, we all sort of know why it's a good idea sort of for its own sake. You know, information is good, misinformation is bad. Why? Because it's misinformation and leads people to do wrong things. And I guess one way of boiling it down is to say, well, you can't make logical, helpful decisions based on misinformation. It doesn't permit of making good decisions. Well, how do you mean? So, I don't know. He's hit upon a formulation here, which is, I thought, very interesting. And he's basically saying here, look, this is the shortest possible post today, but the debate shows why fact-checking is important and why misinformation matters. So let's get to it. People use evidence to try to make their positions seem reasonable. This is what, I'll add a word or two, this is what makes debates useful. And that's important to point out because I spent a lot of yesterday saying there's really no way in which debates are useful, at least not anymore. And it has a lot to do with the prevalence of misinformation in them, but also the frequency with which that misinformation, of whatever grade it may be, is so frequently offered in other venues that, if you follow politics and you watch a debate, you say, I've heard all of this before, I haven't learned anything. And not only have you not learned anything, there's no way you were ever going to learn anything because if you learned anything at all, it would have been misinformation in many cases. But you see what he's getting at here? This is that people use evidence to try to make their positions seem reasonable. That's what makes debates useful, because debates then advantage people who are right about things and can prove it, For someone with a well-supported position, evidence is easy to find. For someone with a poorly supported position, they are going to have to scrounge and spin and dodge. And if you do that enough, people start to notice. What are they noticing? He doesn't quite finish that out, but they're noticing that you're not telling the truth. You're not trustworthy. Your arguments are not very good, and I shouldn't listen to them. Even if you can bring them around to a logical sounding conclusion, you can only do so based on evidence that is flawed or wrong, or, in today's environment, fabricated. So, as he continues, the reason why unchecked misinformation is so damaging to civic discourse, not civil, but civic discourse, understand the difference, is that it undoes these sense-making benefits of argument, right? Civic discourse isn't just politeness, it still includes argument. But there's the difference right there. Civil discourse, don't yell at each other and say F you and scream and lie about things, versus civic discourse. This is the discourse necessary to make decisions. You say your part, I say my part. It's the old marketplace of ideas. So again, the reasons why unchecked misinformation is so damaging to civic discourse is that it undoes the sense-making benefits of argument. Why argue about anything at all? If people with poorly supported positions, though, can just make stuff up, right, then they're at no disadvantage, the supposed natural disadvantage, in a debate. You have a poorly supported position. You are arguing it poorly because there's very little evidence in favor of you. But if you can just fabricate evidence and get away with that, then you're on level ground. If everybody just says, well, you said it, therefore it's viable evidence, then you're on level ground as between people who are telling the truth about things and have reached good conclusions and people who are lying and have reached bad ones.
Hi everybody, it's me, David. Let's change things up from the old fundraising pitch for just a minute and talk instead about how you can be a part of our show. If you've got a smartphone or any other electronic recording device, why not sit down and record a segment for us? Read us an important article and give us your take. Read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Then send the file to me at kagrox@gmail.com and I'll try and work it into the show. Short segments, a few minutes in length, are easiest to fit in. And of course, I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to play everything, but if you've ever shouted at your radio or TV about something you wish was being covered, here's your chance to change that. Make the show your own. Send your submissions to me at kagrox@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Let's continue with Mike Caulfield's distillation. I'm ruining the brevity of his point by commenting on it along the way, but it's very succinct, so it won't take too long. But I think this makes a very good point and begins to drill down into, well, okay, everyone understands misinformation is bad. Let's talk for just a minute about exactly why. I think it's clarifying, right? As he says, if people with poorly supported positions can just make stuff up, then they are at no disadvantage in a debate. And a debate should have an advantage for people who are, one, telling the truth or at least making good arguments about which evidence is often easy to find. Usually that's an indication of a well-supported position, whereas poorly supported positions are going to be at a disadvantage. It doesn't mean equal opportunity for both sides. There is no room for alternative facts here, right? Alternative facts now has a new successor phrase as well, concepts of a plan, right? You're able to stand up there and, should equal weight be given to, well, I support a program that not only is there good economic and public health evidence for it being a good idea, but it's also been in practice for 10 plus years and has been very successful and has brought some 50 million people to affordable insurance. That's easy to find evidence versus, well, I have the concept of a plan. Well, I think you lose that debate because a plan versus actual reality is already at a natural disadvantage. Concept of a plan, well, that's not going to help you either. But in a world where you are ashamed to say, well, our facts are the alternative facts. Those are just as good as regular facts. They are not. But that's how you end up winning weird debates about that stuff, too. I don't know. To me, they're related concepts. But maybe not so much to you. Let's talk about what Mike Caulfield has to say. If people with poorly supported positions can make stuff up, no disadvantage. And if that's the case, then, this is really it, then there's no point to debate at all. or for that matter, to civic argument, whatever form it may take, right? Whether it's formal debates or discussion on the streets. If you can just make stuff up, then what are you even doing talking to people about anything? What benefit is there for you, for them? The benefit for you is somebody might believe you because the assumption is that most people aren't just making stuff up. Sure, debates serve other functions. You still see the temperament of the candidates and so on. You learn what positions they hold. Maybe, unless they're making those up too, I guess. But as a sense-making exercise, on sense-making for issues, it becomes worthless. And that's true. I'm just trying to make sense of the election so I can decide on a sensible basis who to vote for. If you are making stuff up as evidence for your arguments, it's going to ruin my sense-making exercise. People have tied themselves into knots over this. Sometimes people say things like, well, it's important to fact-check debates because otherwise misinformation gets out there. And sure, I suppose that's exactly what it means. But pushing back on misinformation isn't about controlling for some side effect of a debate. On the contrary, it's an attempt to preserve the dynamic which justifies the use of debate at all in public life. In the end, it's profoundly simple. Unchecked misinformation undoes the sense-making benefits of civic discourse. And without functional civic discourse, democracy cannot work. That's it. Everything else is static. How do we know it can't work? Because democracy is, you have a civic discourse. People who say yes to this position give their piece and their evidence. People who say no to this position give their piece and give their evidence. People do the sense-making exercise as between the two of them and are asked to vote. Which direction do you want to go? But if you allow in fake information and fake evidence, then you're not going to get to the exercise you engage in will no longer be a sense-making exercise. It may be a preference-expressing exercise, but to the extent that you want democracy to work, asking people what do they prefer and why, it's just down to, well, I don't know, give a thumbs up or thumbs down to stuff that looks good or people who are taller, then there's very little reason to believe you're going to have good outcomes in your decision making, right? How will we effectively manage the economy if we've said the person who's taller should make this decision? Or, that's a dumb example. But then again, one of our big pundits just said, that's what I looked at the debate for and that's what I saw. Or this one speaks louder than the others. But I guess more to the point of what's happening here is, how shall we manage the economy going forward? One person has real world data and says, I'm making some hard choices about that, but this is what my plan is. And the other person says, they're eating dogs. That's my plan for the economy. I don't know if we're going to have a good outcome from that. Maybe that's not a good thing. I don't know. It seems like a basic and well understood point, but I don't know if I've ever seen anybody try to actually nail it down. Why is this bad? Well, the answer is you'll make decisions that are at best uncertain and unsupported, and at worst facially horrible, and everybody should know it. So, okay. Well, that I thought was very interesting, and there are many other things that I would like to bring you in that vein. And if we head back to Pocket, we'll find them, and I'll sort through which ones need to be told right away. Some of these really do need to get on the record. But first, I have to come to a screeching halt, I guess. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Armando, for stopping the car. I got to turn around and get back to something. I got a note yesterday from Jeremy Freiberger, and, I don't mean to say that he was admonishing me for this, but he was saying, essentially, I sent you a bunch of updates from the states, to encourage people to look down ballot. And I know things have gotten crazy. There was a debate, all sorts of other distractions. Can we get back to this? gently reminding me that, yeah, there were more states to cover. This is true. And he wasn't sure exactly why it had happened, that we had turned our attention elsewhere. And the answer is, dogs, cats. I don't know. It's exactly that. I got distracted by the flood of other insane information that I wanted to share with people. But I do have a commitment to sharing this information with you. And one of the things that we have to stop and hit the brakes on and turn around is this correction, which skips over the next installment. And I'll turn around again, and there's my sound effect for turning around, and get to that in a minute. But first, he writes to me and says, David, I just discovered that Michigan's Senate and Minnesota's Senate, we spent some time focusing on both Michigan and Minnesota and the state legislative races there, but in the Senates of Michigan and Minnesota, they do not have an election this year. That's actually kind of major and will affect, but it does help you target your money because they still are having elections in the House side of these state legislatures, and extremely important as always, but nothing in the Senate. Why? Michigan's state senators serve terms of 4 years and so won't stand for election until 2026. I guess they do the whole Senate. They don't stagger things as we do in the United States Senate. Minnesota's Senate holds 3 elections in each decade. That's their methodology, with the election ending in years ending in 0, 2, and 6. And what does 2024 end in? Well, not one of those. I mean, the answer is 4, but it's also not one of those numbers. So therefore, no. Thus, barring the unexpected, and I guess there's always some unexpected, there isn't anything to do for the state senates of Michigan and Minnesota until 2026. Sorry for not learning this sooner. Where were you out there in Michigan and Minnesota correcting this? I blame you. No, I don't. But at any rate, good observation. Well worth the time. Meanwhile, aside from the states that hold legislative elections in odd-numbered years, I live in all of them, or have lived in all. No, not Louisiana. I have forgotten Louisiana, though it's right here. Virginia, yes. New Jersey, yes. So to me, I'm like, those are the 2 states I've really resided in. Spent a couple of years in college in Pennsylvania, but not voting for the state legislature there. And I just thought, okay, well, that's the way it is. The other one, Louisiana, I haven't lived in, but I forgot to mention, just hold it together there, Louisiana. Again, victimized by a tropical weather system. Hurricane, I guess came ashore as Hurricane, what's the name? Francine, now a tropical system. Again, it's lost power moving inland, but flooding New Orleans once again, which I guess is something they're growing used to there, but best wishes for a speedy recovery there. And thankfully this time you've been hit by a storm again. There is a Democratic administration that believes in helping Americans recover from emergency and natural disaster, regardless of whether or not they support that president politically. Remember, that goes away if Donald Trump is allowed back in the White House, whether by winning the election or any other means. And there's a lot I need to tell you about that. But in the meantime, I got to tell you about what to do down ballot. So, as he mentioned, as Jeremy mentioned, there's no Senate elections for state legislature in Michigan and Minnesota. But aside from the states that do hold elections in odd-numbered years, like Virginia, New Jersey, and Louisiana, only Maryland, Alabama, and Mississippi aren't electing both chambers, or I guess we'll say all chambers because of the one unicameral legislature in Nebraska, aren't electing all chambers of their respective state legislatures this fall. So in the vast majority of states, very important to focus on these things. In the latter group of 3 states, all state legislators serve 4-year terms, with the next elections due in 2026. Note, additional state legislatures may have atypical election schedules, but not as far as 2024 is concerned. Got it? Okay. So with that correction in mind, We'll focus for a moment on Pennsylvania, which was the next in the queue from Jeremy. Pennsylvania, like Michigan and Arizona, is target rich for Democrats in 2024, not least because of Pennsylvania's 19 electoral college votes, all of which can be forged if necessary. Followed closely by the need to defend Democratic Senator Bob Casey, who's running for his 18 millionth term in office, I guess. But next down ballot are three incumbent House Dems, Matt Cartwright, Susan Wild, and Chris Deluzio. You can research and or support them, of course, in their bid for re-election to the House of Representatives, the federal race, at frontline.dccc.org, right? Plus 2 Dem red to blue House candidates, and those you can find likewise also covered by the DCCC, but this time at redtoblue.dccc.org, right? Defending House incumbents, Frontline. Flipping seats from red to blue, well, easy to remember, redtoblue.dccc.org. One of them could very well unseat the exceptionally odious Republican Scott Perry. Keeps having his phone seized, wrapped up in the January 6th investigation, insisting he did nothing wrong because insurrection is great and awesome when you're doing it for your guy. No, problematic and you should be prosecuted. Meanwhile, although Pennsylvania has no state Supreme Court election activity this year, some might recall last year's ugly fight for a top court seat that was won handily by now Justice Daniel McCaffrey. This victory maintained the court's liberal majority, 5-2, and ensures that Pennsylvania continues to be somewhat protected from conservatism's anti-democratic BS. All right. During the past 3 election cycles, he reminds us, Pennsylvania has gradually edged leftward. Now, after gaining narrow control of the state house in 2022, currently with 100 Dems, 101 Goppers, and 2 vacant seats held until recently by Democrats, Keystone State Dems are hoping to take back control of their state Senate. Yet, with 22 Dems and 28 Republicans, Dems will need to flip 3 or more seats to do so. Support a flip of Pennsylvania's Senate at PASenateDems.com. Support and hold/expansion of Pennsylvania's House at PAHDCC.com. It doesn't roll trippingly off the tongue, but PA for Pennsylvania House Democratic, I guess, Campaign Committee. Pennsylvania House Democratic Campaign Committee, PAHDCC. PAH, really. Pennsylvania House DCC.com. Okay, we'll give you all of those things to look for. Up next in the queue, and I guess last in our queue of states, well, now that we've gotten to the correction, Wisconsin, which due to new and much fairer electoral maps is a unique case among the 6 states in this review. And I've got it here in pocket, and then there's even a little bit more about the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, DLCC, gets a plug in this series too. All right, so we're catching back up, I think. And let me mark everything here so that it's all, so that I start again in the right place. There's actually a way for me to mark this. Though I have to mark it like unread from this point. And there we go. That's the place to do it. All right. Now turning to some other items I wanted to share with you. Let's see. Who's got... there was some stuff which is like the background information. Maybe this is important. And we can spend tomorrow on some of the longer reads. But... one other thing I wanted to mention to you, and I think we mentioned it yesterday, the story that Laura Loomer was somehow, for some reason, allowed to be one of the last people to talk to Trump before he took the debate stage, that she flew with him on the campaign plane to Philadelphia, and accompanied him to the debate and then was with him on the flight back. And it's sparking all kinds of weird speculation. You know how it is. Whenever Donald Trump is spending weirdly inordinate amounts of time with women, not his wife, I guess it sparks this sort of thing. I don't know. That's what's going on. But the political partnership between them is disastrous. And there will be, I think, a lot of people pointing fingers and saying not only did he do badly, but we really need to keep Laura Loomer away from him. That is kind of part and parcel of it. And there's a relatively brief entry, I think, in Semaphore from Shelby Talcott and Dave Weigel about this. Republicans fear Laura Loomer is influencing Donald Trump. Well, she is an influencer. So, and Donald Trump is particularly susceptible to this sort of influencing. We've just read all about it, like how he comes to speak his own language, in fact, with people who are his supporters. All right, well, here's how they put it. She was on the plane with him the day of the debate and on the ground with him the morning after. Some Republicans are worried she had something to do with what happened in between, i.e. that he performed terribly at the debate. Laura Loomer, the right-wing agitator known for egging on Donald Trump's most inflammatory instincts, has been regularly popping up around the former president. After a debate in which Trump shouted about false viral rumors of pet-eating Haitians in an Ohio town, her potential influence is drawing more scrutiny from both parties. One person close to the Trump campaign said they were 100%, that's a quote, 100%, concerned about her exacerbating Trump's weaknesses. Regardless of any guardrails the Trump campaign has put on her, I don't think it's working, the person said. Loomer has long been a presence, looming, I guess, in Trump's orbit, much to the chagrin of some of his allies inside and outside the campaign. Last year, the New York Times reported Trump ordered his staff to give her a formal campaign role, only to drop the idea after fierce pushback from Republicans. Her recurring appearances with Trump around the debate has reopened some of those old wounds. If a common complaint after Trump's performance from Republicans was that he was too online, this is exactly what I said about the pick of J.D. Vance, right? Then the appearance of Loomer, who once protested being banned from Twitter by handcuffing herself to its New York office building while wearing a yellow Jewish star to liken her treatment to the Holocaust, put it all under bright lights. Trump lost the debate because of his performance or lack thereof. Dennis Lennox, a Republican consultant, said, "That's what happens when you wing it. Live in the Fox News X, that is to say Twitter, bubble, and rely upon Matt Gaetz, let alone Laura Loomer." Loomer did not respond to a text message about her trip with Trump. On Wednesday afternoon, after the Harris campaign shared a critical CNN segment about her that referenced recent posts denigrating the nominee's Indian heritage, Loomer wrote that the vice president, that's Harris, was, quote, furious about her investigative reporting. By the way, her investigative reporting was saying things like, if Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry. What kind of an investigation was that? But anyway, she says, I don't care if the media finds my factual posts offensive. I mean, is that a factual post? No. I find their weaponization of government and their policies, which have destroyed our country, to be offensive. I'm not going to stand here and listen to you badmouth the United States of America. Gentlemen, it rises to that level. And by the way, there was also a great media clip circulating, unfortunately, mostly on Twitter, of a Venezuelan journalist putting the screws to Stephen Miller in the spin room, to which he resorts with a similar sort of, well, I'm not going to stand here and listen to you. You ask a simple question, they have no answer for it, they know they're cornered, and they say, what about you? You don't care about abortion, huh? Admit it. Right, okay. Well, anyway, by the way, I guess they mention it here, or maybe they link to it when they were talking about critics being worried about her influence on things, or to the chagrin of some allies and not so allies. That was the Eric Erickson screaming that Greg mentioned. But there's another story out there. Loomer now once again in a running Twitter social media battle with murdery Trader Green. No person whose face I'd rather see finally eaten by the leopard than murdery Trader Greens, there is no winner. And I root for injuries in this fight. Throw them knives. Let that one happen. There's a whole... Loomer spent all night last night screaming and taking shots at murdery Trader Green. And I mean like, wow, low blows, which, what do I care? Terrific, wonderful, fantastic. May they both kill one another, and the sooner the better. But this is going on. Others are not yet engaged in the battle the same way, but I guess her striking out at murdery Trader Green is meant, I think, to intimidate other Republicans out of making public criticisms of her, because this is what I'll do to you too, which is the standard Trump MO, which is why he invites her to be on his campaign all the time, even when others prevent it from happening. He finds ways of working her into the campaign. All right, well, let's see. Even by the standard of the extended MAGA universe in 2024, Loomer has stood out as an extreme figure. They continue here in Semaphore. She has called herself pro-white nationalism and described America as a, quote, white Judeo-Christian ethno-state destroyed by diversity. After Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, a prominent member of the Congressional Black Caucus, died of cancer in July, Loomer posted online that she was a, quote, you know how it is. You don't speak ill of the dead, right? You wait a certain interval. No, she posted she was a ghetto bitch and suggested that she was, quote, going to hell. You know, she loves to stoke the controversy. She's a terrible person. Loomer earned her prominence in the MAGA movement by confronting Democrats on camera with aggressive questions that they usually refuse to answer. She called it being loomered. You know, you show up and you ask something crazy. Wow, what about the pet eating? That's crazy. I'm not answering it. Aha, you've just been loomered. Well, if by that you mean confronted by a lunatic, yeah. After ambushing several Muslim candidates in Michigan and Minnesota, including longtime target Ilhan Omar, Democrats began recognizing her and keeping her out of events. But she's also proved an extremely polarizing figure among Republicans by using the same tactics against them if she thinks they're crossing Trump. Loomer traveled to Iowa before this year's caucuses, confronting Ron DeSantis at the hotel where his campaign team was staying, calling him an absentee governor who'd betrayed President Trump by running against him. DeSanctimonious's soul literally left his cowardly body when he saw me, she posted on Twitter. She also has feuded with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who she's called a traitor, and as have I. So once again, does it bother me that we both think she's a traitor? No, that's okay. On Wednesday, Greene called Loomer's comments mocking Harris's Indian heritage appalling and extremely racist, adding that it does not represent President Trump and that this type of behavior should not be tolerated ever. Okay, now there's more coverage about this. This continues with other views, other angles, but I should point out I have somewhere, and I guess I can pull up the tweets that Loomer sent out about murdery Trader Greene. But I mean, like I said, she really goes below the belt. I'll see if I can find them and link them for you. The View from Democrats is given a moment here. The Harris campaign declined to comment on Loomer's tag along with Trump, but staff have kept an eye on her appearances on the trail and have drawn attention to them on Twitter. Democrats are convinced that the GOP nominee is making unforced errors by listening to divisive figures from the online right, like his vice president, and trading some potentially effective lines of attack for more obscure ones that make some Republicans uncomfortable. There's no doubt Loomer's a divisive figure within Trump's inner circle, but it's also not clear how much has changed lately in terms of her access. She's traveled and spent time with the former president at points throughout his presidential campaign. One Trump world source downplayed her role on the campaign, telling Semaphore she was not involved in debate preparations. Well, probably not formal ones, but you know how he is. Last person who speaks to him. She doesn't interfere, or whatever other people call it, the person said. She's actually very encouraging and a positive person to be around. No, that's not true. Trump keeping controversial figures close to him, even when they agitate others in his campaign, is also nothing new. One former Trump administration official noted that Trump enjoys the Game of Thrones grappling for power among those close to him, and that these types of people are the ones his team has been dealing with for years. I think it's dangerous. I think it shows poor judgment, but I don't think it's a turning point because I think that he's practiced in that before, this person argued. It's also hard to single her out given that Trump has so many entry points into her particular corner of online combat. Vance, for example, prominently encouraged the cat memes about the Ohio pet rumor before the debate and defended bringing it up afterwards. Ultimately, for those who believe Trump underperformed on Tuesday night and went off script, well, the blame does not clearly lie with Loomer or any outside conservative faction. It lies with the candidate himself. And lastly, a couple of notes about this that make good background and context but couldn't be worked into the story. Notable, they say. The Associated Press noted that Loomer accompanied Trump to memorials for 9/11 in Pennsylvania and New York. She shared a video claiming the attacks were an inside job last year. And the Washington Post profiled Loomer in May, contrasting Trump's public affection for her with the reluctance of his aides to discuss her influence on the record. All very interesting. Like I said, I think, turn up the things that she said about Murdery Trader Grin most entertaining, and we'll see which leopard ends up eating whose face here. I root for them both in that one. All right, time to hand things over to Justice Putnam for today's West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and let's get a quick look at what's upcoming on today's show. A majority of the conservative Missouri Supreme Court ordered MAGA Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, we got an outcome, to place a measure on the November ballot to enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution. Yay! A victory. On the rest of the menu, Trump ally, notorious spy Michael Flynn, is priming supporters for violence, no surprise, ahead of the election. Let's just take a quick break for this announcement.
NetworksRadio.com.
This one, the one that always comes at the end.
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
How about this one from the debate? Trump claimed we hardly make chips anymore, but U.S. chip manufacturing remains among world leaders in the industry. And Michigan leaders joined a national bipartisan effort to push back against attacks on the election system. Definitely very necessary. We'll see you tomorrow with more.